Today we're going to be talking about the Hacker Intellisense powered autofill. Okay, so what's the Intellisense bit about that mean? Well, by default, Blender's text editor has an autofill feature, but it's only capable of populating the terms that are available with stuff that already exists within the file. So for instance, if I were to type bpy dot and then right click, and the Hacker menu commandeers the right click menu in the text editor with a bunch of other really cool stuff, but you still have access to the default text stuff by coming down here where it says edit text. And so if we were to click the default Blender text autocomplete, it just puts BPY again because that's all the contents that it has to search from. If we were to say bpy.context and then come down here and type bpy dot again and do the same thing, we now have a selection of two things because it's read from the top contents of the file, and we can click up or down and select something. But it doesn't really have an understanding of what you're writing or the options of the possible things that will work within your program. And so this is where Intellisense comes in to save the day. So Hacker makes use of an Intellisense powered autofill. It also allows you to create your own custom terms for an autofill library, which we'll get to maybe in this video, probably in another one. But if we right click, select options, and under autofill, we make sure use autofill is enabled, which it is enabled by default. I just had it off for this demonstration. And we come back here and then we try the same thing. Let's type BPY this time. Notice as soon as I type BP, we get the option of Y, so I could press enter. As soon as I press that, we get all possible things that we could put in here. So we could say ops, and when we press enter again, we get a bunch of options. So this, like the navigator feature and the advanced search features, is another custom drawn menu system that was built specifically for Hacker. So we get nice little bonuses like the text size enlarging and highlighting and stuff like that. We can scroll with the mouse up and down. We can also scroll with the mouse wheel, and we can also scroll up and down with the arrow keys. So I could go bpy.ops.mesh, and I'm just clicking here, and I don't know, we could click something like this, and once we get to the end of a term or function or class or whatever, we get the documentation that's written within the core code files. So usually when you're writing code, you'll leave comments near a function or a class or something, and Intellisense can read those. It brings those in and lets you know what that thing does. And depending on the way whoever wrote that particular code wrote it, will also show you the parameters you can use for that operator, class, function, whatever. And so we could click on that and we'd have immediate access to fill all that stuff in. Okay, so typically if you're writing code in the text editor, you're going to want to begin by importing BPY. So as soon as we type in IM, we're able to type enter and see everything that we can possibly import. Notice too that we get lots of results in the Hacker text editor autofill that we would not have available to us if we were to autocomplete in the default Blender Python console, which is featured below here. If I were to type import and then space and then autocomplete, we get a lot of results. I'll go ahead and expand this view here. We don't get the same results. And so you may be thinking, well, we don't get the same results because it just printed too much stuff here, and so it got cut off, which is, I mean, that's bad to begin with if you want to know everything that's available to you. But even if we were to type in underscore, hit autocomplete, we don't get those same results. Within Hacker's implementation of Intellisense, we have access to a lot more of what's available to us in the code. Now, these things are things that exist. So for instance, up there, it had said future, like underscore underscore, which typically in Python and I guess in other coding languages, when a module, function, or something begins with an underscore, It's usually because it's meant to be denoted as an internal use thing. But hey, sometimes internal use stuff can do cool stuff and you want to know about it and you want to have access to it. Okay, so it is a thing that I can import. So I've imported future. I don't even know what that means. But we should be able to get an auto-complete result, and we do. So generators, generator stop. There's some interesting things to get into there. So this button right here, this is a hacker button, which if you are using the Python console for some reason, will make results fill in as you type. So I literally pressed I, then M, and that autofilled bpy.context. So that's available to you there, just so you know that. Okay, so coming back to the top here, we could import bpy. Now, if you want to find cool underscore stuff with objects and things beyond imports, like for instance, if I were to type bpy dot here, so this will display all the regular contents. However, I did intentionally remove the underscore results from things past imports. If you want to have access to that kind of stuff or see what else is available, you can type in underscore and you'll get lots of interesting things you can do, such as if we were to put doc here, I could then do print, and I'll click this button to expand the console here, and then we can either press run script down at the bottom. There's also, if you right click, you can just immediately press run script. And this prints out the documentation information for bpy, which is give access to Blender data and utility functions. So that's an example of a thing that you might want access to that's not accessible by default, like in the console. So if I were to type bpy dot, I mean, it's there, it'll work if you type the whole thing in, but if you press autocomplete, you don't get access. You don't know that that's a thing, basically is what I'm saying. And even when we type it in manually here, we don't get those results. So by the way, if you're wondering how I'm able to type and have my console to continue to stay on top, it's because Hacker invokes a AutoHotkey exe script, which ships with Hacker, and it's all taken care of automatically. Unfortunately, this one tiny portion of the add-on only works for Windows users, the ability to keep your console on top, but it's a really nice feature to be able to not constantly have this thing flickering on and off. There's also an option, if you come down here in the Hacker options under external apps, to enable or disable this, and also change the display so we can have this, our system console, be transparent if we want. This is useful for people who don't have a 2-monitor setup, or you're on a laptop and you're away from your regular computer. It's much easier to work with this, and getting feedback results to your code is extremely important if you want to make your life not suck. Okay, I think that's going to about do it for this video. I should mention there are a few limitations to the implementation of Intellisense autofill within Hacker, but we're going to get into those in the next video and how we work around them, and in some ways even make them better because of the limitations, if that makes sense, in the next video regarding the custom autofill library, which integrates with the Intellisense results within Hacker. So thanks very much for watching. If you're interested in learning more about Hacker, please see the links in the description or just go to blendersensei.com/hacker, and I'll see you next time.